What's up, guys? This is Anime Crossover. I'm back with another episode of What If Naruto Was Trained by the Sage of Six Path, part 17. And if you did enjoy this video, give this video a like and comment down below. And if you're new to my channel and like my content, subscribe and hit the notification bell for more crossover fictions with a twist. Now let's begin this new video.
Chapter 26. Lust and Disorder. Ha, 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 again. Heeding his master's severe command, Naruto moved his arms in the motion of a kata but couldn't finish it before collapsing to the ground, fully tired. That's what happens when you train non-stop for 8 days.
This is insane. I never expected it to be this demanding.
That'll be it for today. Hi, the ninja muttered softly as he lay on the ground, unable to move his head. He didn't need to see his master enter the main home, though. He was quickly hauled up by a pair of massive arms, compliments of Apachai, who was plainly concerned about his well-being after the workout. Thanks, Apachai. As they entered the secondary building and jumped up to the second level, the Muay Thai giant gave a sad nod. The reason for this was that the intoxicated Sakaki and Kensai destroyed the flight of stairs, and Akisame believed it would be better for Kenichi's training to acquire upper body strength by climbing up to the second level with a rope.
Apachai carefully laid the fatigued blonde disciple on the futon after finding and entering Naruto's guest room, a worried expression on his face.
Naruto laughed weakly. Don't worry, Apachai, you know how quickly I heal, just give me a la. The next sound that came out of his lips was snoring, a sign of someone in deep sleep and tiredness.
Apachai walked no more than 5 steps before stopping in front of an open room with one Shio Sakaki munching candies. Sakaki, the scarred guy said, looking at him, I don't think Naruto will make it through the training.
He's a tough kid, very tough, Sakaki said, emphasizing one of Naruto's strengths. As the old man said, he wouldn't train the kid if he didn't believe he was ready, but... Appa, you're right to be concerned. His progress is a little slow because it took a little more than a week to learn 2 techniques compared to his daily training back then. Sakaki narrowed his eyes before closing his room's door and going outside the building with Apachai in tow. But I'm confident he'll succeed. Quote, oi, quote, oi, did you hear what I... Sakaki turned around to see the naive Muay Thai master staring at something with his index finger pointed. What is it? He followed the extended limb's direction, expecting to see something spectacular or cool. But it turned out to be a couple of birds cuddling with a chick on their nest, which was perched on a branch of one of the elder's trees. Man, they're just a bunch of birds.
He never left his friend behind as he watched the parent birds nuzzle their newborn because they were the symbol of a peaceful family similar to theirs, if a little chaotic. After 5 hours, Rhea was humming to herself as she jumped onto the second level of the secondary building, a tray of food in her hands. I hope Naruto is awake so he can eat the food I made for him. He'll need it for the next session, she said, turning to her left. And why are you here? What? I can't give Naruto some food to eat. Medusa asked innocently, holding a tray of food in her hand.
The Titaness and the Kosaka disciple exchanged glances as they continued walking before their pace intensified and became a foot race to the blonde's room. The race finished in a tie when they placed their hands on the door and simultaneously opened it. Naruto, food's ready, said the 2 eternal females, holding their platters with their heads bowed. When they turned to face him, they dropped the food before entering the room because Naruto wasn't there. Where is he? Where is Naruto? Medusa screamed before a hand covered her face and glared at Rhea.
Rhea moved over to the bookshelf, where a note was fastened against it with a tack. She yanked the note free as she read it, her gaze shifting from left to right. Oh? Medusa asked, puzzled and concerned. What do you mean, oh? Where is he? She wondered as she watched Rhea tidy up the mess they'd left from their prior reaction. Rhea came to a halt and gave her a fleeting glance before beginning her labor. He's paying his predecessor a visit.
Quote, oh, Medusa mumbled, quickly helping Rhea after a sudden desire to clean up the mess seized her.
Atlantis Poseidon's palace Pacific Ocean being king offers its advantages, such as royalty power, the ability to lead armies, and basically do whatever he wants. However, the king must maintain vigilance for the safety of his kingdom and people, which includes immortal gods such as Poseidon.
Poseidon sat atop his throne, bored out of his mind by the weekly status meeting, his chin atop his palm as he leaned on his arm supported by the throne's arm, listening to his court's updates about Atlantis and the ocean itself. His wife, Aphrodite, was also present, as she sat on her throne beside him. The dullness was broken when a soldier entered the throne room and interrupted the court gathering by bowing before his monarch and queen. Lord Poseidon, Lady Amphitrite, I have news. The two gods exchanged glances before Amphitrite motioned him to speak. Your Highnesses, Lord Naruto Uzumaki has arrived in Atlantis and has requested to see you. Naruto's here, Poseidon inquired, a grin on his face. Why send him in? Said the soldier as he exited the chambers, bowing to both him and his wife. The monarch then turned to face his courtiers. We are dismissed.
Before they could go, Amphitrite interposed. For the time being, Poseidon sighed as the court members exited the chamber, leaving them alone. Dear, what do you think he's come here for? Does he really need a reason? No, but I have a feeling something isn't quite right.
Before Poseidon could ask her, footsteps boomed down the corridors, drawing their attention to Naruto in his casual attire, the Nemean leather jacket over a deep orange shirt and dark blue jeans, with his ninja sandal and the trident on his back. Hello, Lord Poseidon, Lady Amphitrite, he bowed to the gods before speaking again. It's been a while, how are things in Atlantis?
Poseidon said, pretty much the same as always, as Amphitrite cleared her throat, reminding him of something vital. Well, there is one new thing, and it's very important and great. What is it? Naruto was taken aback as he spotted the goddess touching her somewhat bulging stomach. Are you?
Poseidon grasped Amphitrite's hand in his and she smiled. Yes, I'm expecting a child. Naruto complimented them, feeling nothing but joy for them. That's wonderful news, I'm very happy for you too, do Triton and your other children know? The joyful couple nodded. That's good, he said after taking a long breath. Lord Poseidon, something has recently caught my attention, and it is about me being your successor. Really? Poseidon asked his wife, who nodded as she rose from her chair and exited the throne room after hugging Naruto. What exactly is it? Has something happened on the surface?
Oh, nothing. I met your mother, who tried to kill me because of a lie, and then 2 weeks ago I met your rap ex-lover, who also tried to kill me, Naruto replied sarcastically. Poseidon's eyes were as big as saucers as he peered upon his heir. Say what? You must have heard me. So you didn't. You know, Poseidon drew his thumb across his throat, the sign of murder. Don't do that to them.
Naruto answered swiftly, shaking his head with a trace of hurt. No, I didn't kill them. What's wrong with you? Replied a sheepish Poseidon yet again. However, I am currently residing with them.
Say what? Poseidon's eyes widened in surprise. But Medusa is.
Naruto cut him off in the middle of saying, no longer cursed. I broke the curse with the trident, so she's back in her human form, he said, his head suddenly heating up as he tried to keep the blood from escaping his nostrils. And I can see why you took her back then, but that doesn't excuse what you did. I know, Poseidon said sadly before a little perverse look took over as he was reminded of Medusa's graceful body and appearance, which an irritated Naruto picked up on.
Don't even bother thinking about it. What? You already know what? Fine. Come on. Were you seriously considering cheating on your pregnant wife for a woman you wronged centuries ago? No, Poseidon pouted, drawing a face palm from Naruto, who had posed the question he wanted answered before becoming sidetracked by Rhea and Medusa. Why didn't you tell me that I would be the leader of the Greek pantheon? Poseidon's mouth formed a "oh" like a fish's mouth, confirming Naruto's suspicions. Don't you think that's something you tell a mortal if you make said mortal your successor?
Well, aye. Naruto crossed his arms, thus alerting his predecessor that he'd been apprehended. Well, is there some big reason why you didn't tell me during my first visit back then, that I needed to hear from an angel?
The Olympian and shinobi seemed to be stuck in time as the latter glanced at the former, who appeared to be deep in thought. After what seemed like minutes, Naruto sneered before turning around and swimming out of the chamber when Poseidon finally spoke. Wait, the sea god whispered, convincing Naruto to turn around and face him. He sighed deeply and closed his eyes before opening them again. I'll tell you, I was going to wait until you were ready to tell you about this, but that plan is now ruined.
Talk. Poseidon sighed once again. Naruto, what I'm about to tell you is something that most mortals will find difficult to comprehend.
Where did I ever hear that before? Evening, Las Vegas, Nevada, United States.
A black limousine stopped in front of the Julius Caesar Hotel, one of the city's most exquisite properties. One of the main magnets for travelers staying overnight or longer was an 11-story wide edifice that included multiple restaurants and 3 swimming pools.
The driver jumped out of the driver's seat and dashed to the right rear door, opening it like a gentleman with a flushed face. Who could fault him?
His guest exited the van gracefully, revealing herself to be a very gorgeous woman with purplish-violet hair and deep red eyes. She was dressed in a Chinese gown that hugged her amazing womanly shape and exposed the sides of her long, cream-colored legs and sections of her chest area, showing a huge portion of her large breasts that appeared to be unparalleled to anybody around her. "Thank you, young gentleman." "Sure," the driver said, drooling slightly from his mouth as he watched his passenger enter the hotel until he was jolted out of it by a symphony of horns honking at him. It didn't take long for the woman to approach the receptionist and request her room key. The woman saw the countless looks from everyone around her as she waited, sexual and crazy looks from single and married males, as well as jealousy from the ladies, including the receptionist who was assisting her. In relation to the receptionist, "I'm sorry, ma'am, but neither your name nor your reservation are in the computer," the black-haired receptionist said with a sorrowful grin, but she knew it wasn't true. "I believe I have a reservation in this hotel, specifically the penthouse," the woman smugly grinned, hands on her hips. When the receptionist motioned to the security guards who stood behind her on both sides, looking very intimidated with blushes.
"These men will accompany you out," the receptionist said, puffing out her chest as though she had won the battle. The still smirking woman didn't appear to be leaving as a thin purple fog suddenly scattered from her necklace, filling the area and forcing residents, staff members, and tourists to cough loudly. Minutes later, she heard garments hitting the floor as the manager escorted her via horseback. "The penthouse, please." "Yes, my lady." The woman smirked again as she cackled behind her hand, leaving everyone engaged in sexual activity behind, including the receptionist who was being pampered by the two security guards.
Along with Naruto, a recognizable figure appeared from the sea at one of the coastlines, as though riding a jet ski across the ocean. And that jet ski was actually a hippocampus. Sway, for example, is Naruto's hippocampus. He hadn't seen Sway in a while, so he decided to take her with him on his trip to Atlantis and back to Tokyo. Naruto had Sway form a summoning contract before his trip to Rhea, so he could summon her far faster than Poseidon or the other gods do to summon their fearful creatures. When Naruto first saw Sway, she was the size of a horse rather than her much larger form. The blonde shinobi had a deep pondering look as they approached the Bay region, replaying the true reason Poseidon informed him. Needless to say, he was both astonished and enraged by it. "Why?" Naruto questioned himself, his face troubled. Sway appeared to comprehend her master's confused emotions as she huffed sadly and received a pat on the back from him. "Don't worry about me, Sway," Naruto said as he sealed away the trident with a sad smile. I just need to process this, that's all." Sway gave a slight nod before slowing down as they approached the bay, avoiding the freighter's crews and security. Naruto began heading to the docks after locating a safe area and sending Sway back to Urahara's shop in a puff of smoke. "This will take some time to process." A loud sound pierced his ears just as he was about to take another, attracting his attention to the streets, where he discovered something quite unpleasant. "What
the hell?" The shinobi and his two companions looked, wide-eyed, at what was happening in front of them. A massive orgy.
Don't ever stop. Don't ever stop. Suck it on this."
"I'm not stopping until every last drop is in you."
More. Naruto cringed as a police officer fired his weapon into the face of a female bank accountant before thrashing her mouth with force. Disgusted, he soon found himself surrounded by several white liquid-covered older women and girls his age. "Not happening, ladies," he said as he hopped over them and fled through the streets, not looking back since he was too intent on getting out of there. "What is the hell is going on here? This is perplexing. These people should have more dignity than this," Naruto said as he shunshined to the roof of a building, opting for a bird's-eye view of the metropolis. He created many clones of his signature cross-sign seal before sending them away with a command. "Are you on a scouting mission? You think what happened on that street is happening all over the city?" Kurama said nonchalantly after getting over his first astonishment. "I bet this isn't the time to tell you about that strange energy I sense in the middle of Tokyo."
Surprisingly, Naruto nodded as he sat on the roof with his arms folded, waiting for his clone's memories to return at any time. "Yeah, I know. I sensed it a little after you did, plus you have a tell of knowing something."
Really? Ashura gave 3 strong nods to underline his response, leading the embarrassed fox to remain mute until doing the same himself. After what seemed like hours of waiting, Naruto eventually acquired all of his clone's memories, along with a headache. To his great amazement, he discovered that the entire city's people and tourists from other nations are indulging in sexual activities everywhere, in vehicles, buses, offices, and so on.
"Obviously, this is a supernatural event," he said, pondering the peculiar energy signature reported by Kurama and its familiarity. The familiarity of God. But which god or goddess could have caused something like this?
Dojo Rhea. Running out of his room after a Hirishin, Naruto made his way to the main building, hoping that his friends and master didn't succumb to the city's lust cloud, as Kurama dubbed it.
When he walked through the door and into the living room, he felt relief as he saw everyone going about their business, which was eating dinner.
Naruto, the stated ninja disciple, cringed as Mew yelled at him from the doorway, glaring at him. Where have you been? You should have been resting from Grandpa's training, not going anywhere else. You made all of us worry. Sorry. Naruto sheepishly massaged the back of his head before turning to face Hayato, who seemed to sense his distress. Master, may I speak with you for a brief moment? As the two blondes exited the room and walked across the training grounds from the main building to the dojo building to talk. What troubles you? Hayato inquired as his apprentice exhaled deeply.
Naruto had told his master everything about the unusual desire cloud that had engulfed the city by the time they arrived at the dojo building. Shock isn't even close to describing how Hayato is feeling right now. And, do you believe this is being done by a god or goddess?
The feeling is generally the same as Poseidon's presence, but I may have a hunch on who it is, and Kurama has already found the location of the origin. Naruto stopped before leaping into the air, spinning around the dojo property in a 360-degree spin before landing in front of his teacher. The cloud is just outside the dojo walls, but it isn't coming in for some reason. Hayato rubbed his beard as he considered this development with his disciple, but it wasn't long before he had an answer. It's all because of us, Naruto. I know. You guys are the Awesamest masters in the martial arts world, Naruto said, plainly annoyed by his master's incessant claims about being the strongest across the lands.
No, Naruto. It's because we masters unconsciously release massive amounts of ki, Hayato stated flatly. Really? I mean, I knew you and the others unintentionally released your ki, but could all of your ki together really hold back a supernatural cloud?
Anything is possible, and I figured this was something you should be aware of as well, Hayato said, handing him the freshly printed newspaper. It appears that Tokyo is not affected by this lust cloud, as you described it.
Naruto flicked through the pages until he located the desired story, which was on the first page with large headlines. Strange and unexpected sexual activities have increased in major cities around the world. 1. United States of America, Las Vegas. 2. Japan, Tokyo. 3. London, United Kingdom. 4. Manhattan, New York City, USA. 5. China's Hong Kong. 6. Vancouver, British Columbia.
His pupils dilated as they fell to the bottom of the list, where the author had written them. Strange things happened in each of the cities named, as its citizens were suddenly seized with lust and their hidden desires. The source of this unusual and out-of-character behavior appears to be the weird purplish mist cloud that surrounds the streets of each of the cities listed.
Yeah, I saw that on my way here. Not a pretty sight, Naruto grumbled as he continued to read the article while his master stood there licking a lollipop.
The 6 cities, though, are not as disastrous as Las Vegas, according to government officials from each country. Sin City is regarded as ground zero, because sexual activity is tenfold more than in other places, and the cloud is far more potent. Las Vegas, figures. I know, right? Fortunately, the clouds in each city do not extend beyond the city's borders, so surrounding cities, states, and countries are safe for the time being. However, the governments of each country have issued a quarantine zone alert and advised everyone to avoid these cities until the threat has passed and they are deemed safe.
Hayato recognized the sight in his disciple's eyes and murmured, Naruto. They seek to assist others and shield them from whatever is causing them pain.
Naruto sighed, rubbing his eyes. You do know I have to check it out, right? He received an understanding, HMPH, from him before beginning his trip back to the secondary building. I'll put up a barrier around the property just to be safe, he said after a little pause, not turning to face him. Can you make sure the others don't go outside the property?
Of course. Thank you, Master. When I'm finished, I'll bring you a souvenir.
Hayato observed as his disciple shut the door before turning to face the sky that hovered above him and his species. He closed his eyes just as a burst of yellow light illuminated the secondary building's roof. However, he did not appear to notice the 2 figures who were hiding behind the main building's door before they returned inside.
Heaven, Michael. When the archangel looked up from his work, he saw his sister standing in front of his desk, pouting and her hands on her hips. What is it, Gabriel? Michael inquired, despite the fact that he already knew what she was on about.
Why didn't you tell me you were going to meet with that human? Which one? Gabriel's pout softened as she expounded on which human. The one who is the center of attention for all 3 factions. Poseidon's successor, Naruto, she whimpered, crossing her arms and turning her head away. You know I've wanted to meet him for a long time.
It's complicated, but you'll get to meet him some other time, Michael said with a sigh as he rested a little on his chair, taking a brief break from his chores. I can guarantee you that, Gabriel.
But I wanted to see him, Gabriel pouted, her face brightening and her wings spreading out, somewhat alarming Michael. Wait, I can meet him wherever he is right now. She closed her eyes briefly before opening them with a triumphant smile. I finally found him. Michael instantly stopped her with an astonished expression before she could depart. Gabriel, no, Naruto is currently occupied, he sighed relieved when she listened to him and explained why. He's dealing with something in North America, specifically Las Vegas.
Is it related to the other cities with those mysterious clouds that cause lust and lewd behavior in the populace? Michael nodded and motioned for a now serious Gabriel to take a seat. With situations like this, he could always count on her to be serious and helpful. Our scout's intelligence informs us that this is the work of a god from one of the other factions, particularly a deity whose domain is love.
So this has nothing to do with the meeting. Speaking of which, have you, Sirzex, and Azazel agreed on the location of the meeting?
We have, but, we'd have to ask him for permission to use it. Gabriel tilted her head, a puzzled expression on her face. The man Naruto is afraid of right now. The next morning, Las Vegas outside the Julius Caesar Hotel.
Naruto was in his casual attire with the Nemean jacket covering his torso, standing behind the billboard situated on the high building and taking cover for scouting ahead and away from the lust cloud. He pulled out a pair of binoculars from his scroll and looked through them to scout for any security. Surprisingly, there were several surrounding the hotel despite several gangbangs on multiple women on both ends of the main street. It took him and Sway 5 hours to reach the United States West Coast, 3 hours to run across California and the southern portion of Nevada to reach the city, and 30 minutes to slip past the U.S. Army's perimeter without being noticed.
Naruto repressed a yawn with his palm before returning his gaze to his binoculars. After this, I'm going to take a long nap. There will be no training for a week. Whoever is doing this must be quite powerful to have such sway over an entire city. So, Naruto, which deity is to blame for this? Ashura inquired, ignoring his descendants' post-mortem ambitions.
There are several gods and goddesses who are capable of inducing lust, but one goddess comes to mind. After all, she was the main instigator of the Troy incident. The shinobi shrugged, his fingers twisting the knob on the binoculars to zoom in on the edifice.
That goddess. It took Ashura a second to comprehend who the couple was referring to. You mean her? Well, I could be mistaken. That's true. You can be naive at times. Actually, most of the time.
Jerks, a tick-marked Naruto murmured, gnashing his teeth. While looking through the binoculars, two figures approached him from behind, but Naruto was already aware of them. When they got close enough, Naruto turned around and threw several shurikens at them, but they were blocked by a familiar steel fan. Really, Naruto? When Rhea closed her fan, Naruto was plainly surprised. She was dressed in a dark blue kimono top with a long matching skirt that hid her legs, sleek arm gauntlets that protected her forearms, and her hair done in a high ponytail with an orange ribbon.
Medusa arrived from behind her, a quiver of arrows strapped on her back and a wooden bow in her left hand, dressed differently than Rhea and more closely resembling her master, Shigur, in a little short-sleeved red kimono, matching long stockings, and black high-heel boots. What are you two doing here? Naruto stuttered, pointing his finger. We're here to help you, Medusa replied with a lovely grin. You can't do it on your own.
But, no buts, Rhea said sternly as she approached him with Medusa in tow. Seeing that neither of them would listen to him, Naruto simply grumbled while Kurama mentally labeled him a weaker. So I'm thinking you overheard everything from my conversation with the elder. Yep, Medusa chirped cheerfully, and Rhea smiled.
You do know that was a private conversation, and?
Whatever. Naruto then noticed something else. The girls' expressions appeared as though they'd been waiting for a long time. Have you been here the whole time? Yep, Medusa said with a knowing look. We've been waiting for you for a long time.
What? He covered his mouth to avoid drawing attention to their location, so he whispered to them. How did you girls get here before me?
With my chariot, Rhea said casually, smiling as Naruto's head slowly rotated to face her. It's much faster than riding a hippocampus. Although I'm surprised my son didn't give you or build you a chariot. We actually passed over you in the Pacific.
The shinobi reflected and remembered a shooting star that appeared to be moving in the same direction as he was, but he didn't consider it significant.
Was that you too? The immortal beauties nodded, prompting their male companion to chastise himself for not asking his predecessor for a chariot, but he gradually calmed down and gazed at Medusa. How's your training with Shiger going? What he got was the girl shivering in place as she spoke in a trembling voice, that woman is a monster. Naruto and Rhea both looked at her in pity. I thought all monsters are evil until I met Master Shiger.
All the masters are true monsters, Naruto retorted before a gasp from Rhea drew his and Medusa's attention to her. It can't be this presence. I assume she died along with the others. The Titaness' quiet worried Naruto and Medusa until the latter slapped her on the shoulders, pulling her out of it. Rhea, sweetie, what's wrong? Medusa inquired, worried about her new sibling. I believe I know who's causing all of this. Julius Caesar Hotel penthouse. The mysterious and gorgeous woman had only taken a sip from her wine glass when she became aware of 3 different presences outside the hotel, one of which was extremely familiar. Come in, darling sister, and invite your pals for a good time.
She hasn't seen her in a long time, so she intends to make this a night to remember for everyone present, including herself. After drinking her wine, she lay down on her bed and snapped her fingers, and the doors burst open, bringing in numerous nude men, all with lewd expressions and hardened members as they watched the one who asked for them undress herself, showing her exquisite figure and endowments. Why is that seaweed also a pathetic god here? I thought he became a stay-at-home dad with that tramp of a sea goddess in his underwater palace, the lady thought to herself as she vigorously massaged 2 of the men's members. Oh well, this just means more fun for me. If only she had known who it was. Ma'am, get ready for the best night of your life, one of the men said, hovering above her, his hardened member close to her lips.
I should be saying that, the beauty underneath him said as she kissed and licked the tip before speaking again. And please call me. Crash asterisk. A few moments ago, with Naruto, Rhea, and Medusa. Aphrodite. Rhea nodded, answering Medusa's inquiry as she continued glancing towards the hotel where her apparently dead immortal and sister were staying. It wasn't long before Naruto asked his query that piqued Rei's curiosity in the 2 immortals.
But, if she's been alive all this time, why hasn't she come forward after the war? Why is it now, and why is she causing this lust cloud in these towns and others? What is her motivation for doing this?
Why don't we go and ask her ourselves? Medusa simply folded her arms under her chest, grinning at him. She pointed to the main entrance below, which is tightly guarded by armed guards.
Medusa and Naruto looked at Rhea, who pointed to the top floor, and said, we could avoid the guards and just head straight for the penthouse.
Naruto and Medusa both pouted, their shoulders stooped, at the prospect of evading security. We'd make a scene for Aphrodite and her henchmen, if she had any. Because she already knows we're here, Rhea replied solemnly, eliciting a sigh from Naruto, who massaged his eyes, and a party pooper, from a pouting Medusa.
I have one. Naruto wrapped his arms around Rhea and Medusa's waists, oblivious to the 2 of them's slight blushes. Good thing I learned it too. The girls raised their eyebrows in surprise as they felt a sensation they had never felt before and found themselves in one of the chambers.
The penthouse in particular, and they know they're in the right place because their gaze is pulled to a naked woman surrounded by numerous naked guys who are plainly irritated at being interrupted from having their way with her.
Oh, you're already here, Aphrodite growled, shooing the guys away from her, infuriating them even more. She gave Rhea a once-over. By the gods, you still got it. Then her focus shifted to Medusa, which startled her. And has the curse been lifted? She'll have more time to think about it, she thought as her attention lingered on the lone man of the group. Quote, he's cute, but not worth my time. Wait, her eyes widen after a few moments of observing. But why would he have the same signature as Poseidon? Unless. I presume Aphrodite, Naruto said with a tiny blush as his eyes reflexively scanned the naked woman, at least until his cheeks were tugged by the gentle hands of the irritated Rhea and Medusa. We need to talk, he whispered with his cheeks pushed back till the females let him go, caressing them afterwards.
Oh shush, Rhea chastised before turning to face the love goddess. Aphrodite, it's been a long time.
Rhea, Aphrodite said, but her tone was unfamiliar. Why do I have the feeling you're not here to have fun with me and these men? She received blank and serious looks from her visitors before motioning to her men, who surrounded the trio and smirked before wrapping herself in a white robe. Get rid of them. Hi. The guys surged at the trio, unaware of the kind of ass-kicking they were about to receive, and before any of them knew what had happened, they slumped on the floor like a puppet whose lines had been severed, and in front of the stunned Aphrodite stood Naruto.
After a few moments of stunned quiet, Naruto drew back his outstretched knife hand as Rhea and Medusa closed in on him, making sure the love goddess didn't try to flee. I have some questions for you, if you don't mind answering them.
PFT. Okay, Naruto said, ignoring the goddess's demeanor. why didn't you return to the Olympian Council after the three factions war? Why would I return to Zeus and the others, the ones who decided to have us all killed in order to fight with another faction? So I stayed away and kept myself hidden for all these centuries while basking in my powers, she sighed as she turned her head away from them, a frown on her lips. Speaking of powers, what is the meaning of the lust cloud you have here in Las Vegas and other cities around the world? Rhea said, is it purely for fun? The goddess scoffs, is there a reason for them?
Aren't you clever, Rhea? Although it's embarrassing, but I've started to lose my powers recently, Aphrodite cynically observed with a roll of her eyes. The trio looked surprised as the goddess kept speaking. I know because one time I wanted to sleep with this movie star in.
Please don't, Rhea said, her hands clamped over her ears, refusing to hear Aphrodite explain as she saw her powers fading. Oh, Rhea, the love goddess grinned cheekily at the Titaness. A certain someone, but you don't have the courage to do it. The black silver-haired beauty's face grew slightly red upon hearing that. Is there a reason? Her eyes briefly glanced on Naruto before returning to Rhea. Pity.
Enough. You were saying that you started losing your powers a while ago, Naruto interrupted solemnly. What does this have to do with the lust cloud?
Medusa, not Aphrodite, raised her hand like a student in class, as if she had worked it out. It gives her powers sustenance. Aphrodite angrily pouted at her, which she entirely ignored. Like Ares, who takes his power from bloodshed and deadly conflicts, Aphrodite draws her power from love or, in this case, lust.
Really? As he pondered something, Naruto crossed his arms. But what about Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, and Hestia? Shouldn't they draw on something that provides them power if the same notion applies to them?
Don't forget that they're my children and the elder Olympians. Rhea responded to her blonde companion. That means they're stronger than Aphrodite and don't need the method Aphrodite is currently employing. She gave her a disgusted look, which the goddess ignored by applying her makeup. The same goes for me, in case you're wondering.
Medusa then spoke up. So we know why she's doing this now. She looked at Aphrodite, who had just begun brushing her hair. Can you stop the lust clouds that are forming around the cities?
No, Aphrodite raised her arms and summoned the characteristic purplish cloud, threatening to expose them to its lust-inducing effects. That won't work with us. Naruto applied wind chakra to himself and whirled around quickly, forming a sphere of wind around him and the females. Wind style. Sphere of protection. The technique also pushed the cloud away from them while smashing the glass windows. The trio were astonished to discover that they were no longer in the penthouse suite and were in a different environment once the sphere vanished.
What the hell? Exclaimed Medusa as she drew her bow and prepared to shoot an arrow at any moment.
They found themselves in a coliseum of sorts, comparable to the famed Colosseum of ancient Rome. There are around 50 rows of seats as broad as a freighter's landing bay, and many men and women dressed in Greek costume as in ancient times sat in them. Aphrodite was wearing a white Greek dress, a little silver crown on her head, and a golden necklace with a gleaming ruby on the stone home where the ancient royalties frequently watched the games. She sat on a marble throne, surrounded by handmaidens who fed her various fruits, including bananas, strawberries, apples, and grapes. Gentlemen and ladies, Aphrodite talked through a microphone she conjured up out of nowhere, drowning out her audience's cheers. Tonight, we have 3 very special volunteers for tonight's fight. She indicated the trio. Rhea, the former Titan Queen, makes her first appearance after centuries of isolation. Rhea resisted the temptation to assault Aphrodite and decided to ignore the catcalls from the guys in the seats until they abruptly stopped and she realized why. She stared to Naruto, who was staring at the men as if he could see into their souls just by looking at them. Thank you. In thanks, the Titaness whispered to him. Not a problem. As Aphrodite continued her introduction, Naruto responded with a small smile. Then we have Poseidon's successor, who? She gave the blonde mortal a cursory glance. It doesn't look very impressive. Medusa stifled a laugh as Naruto clenched his teeth at her remarks. And finally, we have Medusa, the former Gorgon who has returned to her beautiful mortal form. Thunderous shouts erupted once more as catcalls and wolf whistles resonated throughout the Colosseum, making Medusa and Rhea feel tense and hot.
You mentioned the word fight earlier, Naruto said to the goddess. Are we fighting with someone?
Aphrodite laughed with an ugly grin. The 3 of you, of course. Naruto felt a pair of arms wrap around his neck and another pair around his waist, which surprised him considerably as he peered behind him to find a red-hot blushing Rhea and Medusa breathing heavily. Of course, fight means pleasure activity in my domain. Oh. In the meantime, Raya Zanpaku Dojo, Tokyo, Japan.
Ouch. Kenichi, hurry up. Again, Can't you just give me a break? Hey, you're the one who asked me to teach you this technique.
Oh, the ninja crossed his arms in front of a heavy-breathing Kenichi who appeared to be about to pass out. His gaze was drawn down to the boy's ankles, where 2 large black ankle weights were fastened to each of them. It's most likely part of the technique Naruto is now teaching him from their 3-day sparring session. Come on, come on. There are 3 more sets. The workout was straightforward. Run 50 sets of 40-yard sprints from the west wall of the training area to the east wall while wearing 20-pound ankle weights. Of course, Naruto didn't perform this type of training with the elder because he already has the appropriate speed. Kenichi, on the other hand, is a very other tale. Ready, Kenichi crouched, his torso close to the ground and his buttocks slightly raised in a sprinter's position. Go. His gaze was drawn to the younger boy, who was sprinting at full speed despite the ankle weights. And remember not to stop until you get back here.
Hi. Mew arrived not long after to see how Kenichi's training for a new technique was going. So, how's he doing? The taller blonde male gave her a more or less hand signal. Do you think he'll learn it in time for the, you know?
He obviously knew what she was talking about because he had told her and the others. The Desperate of Disciples tournament was hosted by Yami, and they were invited by the form that is Ogata's disciple, Kabuto, one of Naruto's foes. When Naruto mentioned Kabuto's claim to destroy the Furinji style with the Ogata style to the masters, Hayato was less than pleased and declared that it would be his style that triumphed.
Perhaps, but keep in mind that he's learning an ancient technique. I know he can do it, but it could take him years to fully perfect it. Naruto gave a knowing smirk. After all, he made a promise to protect you, didn't he? The slightly younger Furinji-style disciple moved her head away from him, a little blush on her face. How did you come to know about that? It's not some big secret, you understand. Plus, even if there isn't a secret, masters are terrible at keeping them, and the way Kenichi looks at you is another giveaway. Clone as the clearly exhausted Kenichi collapsed in front of them after finishing his last set, Naruto commented, getting a nonchalant nod from Mew. Kenichi cautiously raised his head with a tiny smile after calming down his heavy breathing. I'm done. He wheezed as he drifted off to sleep. It didn't last long, though, because he was jolted awake by a kick to the side. Huh? You do realize you have jujitsu training coming up, right? When the boy shuddered in fear at the mention of his next martial arts training, the clone grinned evilly. However, I was able to persuade Akisame to give me an hour of rest before. He got a wheezy thanks from him before turning to gaze at Mew, who was giving him a cautious glance. What?
Mew's mouth twitched as she smiled at the elder blonde. It's just that I can't believe you've gotten this far with my grandfather. Kenichi, me, and my father are the only people with tenacity. She murmured, but the clone's sharp hearing picked it up. Your father, that brought something he and his creator were unaware of until now. He's never seen or met Mew's parents, and it doesn't appear that they live here. Where have your father and mother gone? He inquired nicely, taking care not to press any emotional buttons the girl might have.
His response was Mew's flinch, and he regretted asking her at that time and apologized for his intrusion. Naruto then snatched the sleeping Kenichi and threw him over his shoulders, leaving the girl behind. When Mew spoke in a choked voice, he had only taken 3 steps.
They're gone. She came to a halt when a hand dropped on her shoulder, leading her to turn to face a serious Naruto, who motioned to the dojo building. Mew and her elder blonde counterpart sat on the outside porch, relishing in the solitude between them, after walking to the building and putting Kenichi down to rest. I don't know what happened, but my mother died when I was very young.
I really apologize. I didn't intend to. It's perfectly fine.
No, it isn't. If you are uncomfortable telling me, you are not required to do so. The clone stated unequivocally.
Mew locked her gaze on him for a second before breaking into a little smile. It's all right. Besides, I believe you should be aware because my grandfather clearly did not inform you.
I repeat, this is your family matter, and I apologize for intruding. And, like I said, it's fine. He sighed, indicating Naruto's acceptance of her decision. As for my father, I have no idea where he is or if he's even alive. She frowned as a single tear escaped from her left eye. Overall, I never knew my parents and was raised solely by my grandfather. Naruto fixed his attention gravely on her before shifting his sight upward as he spoke. I know exactly what you went through. As he spoke, he noticed Mew's eyes following him with interest. My parents died later that night after I was born. Mew's eyes widened in surprise. I grew up seeing people in my village treat me like an outcast, but a few didn't and saw me as a person.
As a person? Mew repeated herself inwardly. What exactly does he mean by that? But later on, after 2 intense fights against a fellow disciple and my angry friend, Kurama hissed, despite the fact that what he stated was true. I've discovered that my parents adored me and placed their complete trust in me. That is what gave me strength and happiness. Naruto grinned as he remembered meeting both of his parents before turning to face the girl next to him. And I'm sure your mother and father loved you with all of their hearts. Miu peered directly into Naruto's eyes before her eyes became moist, making the clone doubt if he should say anything at all. Before he realized it, the blonde girl had tightly hugged him. So she reasoned. Miu, when the girl opened her eyes, she saw herself hugging a drooling and happy Kenichi, whose head was resting on her bosom. She sat there in a stupor, looking about for Naruto, but he was nowhere to be seen. What a breakneck speed. Miu turned her gaze to the still sleeping boy on her bosom. I promise, I will protect you, even if I have to die.
For some reason, when she heard that, her heart began to race. This happened several times, including when Kenichi refused to leave the dojo and when he fought Boris to protect her. It's surely not the same as when Renka, Kensei's adolescent daughter, arrived at Ryazanpaku to accompany her father back to China, and she also wished to accompany Kenichi.
Atop the main building's roof, the clone smiled as a joyful Miu hugged Kenichi even tighter with a bright smile. He gazed ahead to see the odd lust cloud being kept back by the Ryozanpaku's master's key and his creator's barrier accidentally. I wonder how the boss is doing. Perhaps he's finally getting some action. The dimension of Aphrodite, Ga! Naruto exclaimed as Medusa smashed him to the ground with unexpected force, despite the fact that he hadn't expected either of them to do so. Rhea was there, standing in front of them, with hard breathing and deep blushes. Girls, what are you doing? We don't. Medusa exhaled deeply as she removed her blouse and shook it off her shoulders, exposing her body. I can't resist. Her lips pursed as she leaned forward, intending to be the first to kiss, and she succeeded.
Naruto's eyes widen in surprise as he notices Medusa's lips now linked to his. His eyes quickly noticed the familiar purple cloud surrounding them and understood they'd been infected by it. He couldn't believe his eyes. In front of a goddess in a coliseum full of people, 2 immortals and a shinobi are transformed to love-making puppets. Wait, the blonde shinobi whispered against Medusa's lips, his hands caressing the woman's hips involuntarily before grasping it. No, Naruto fought to pull his right hand away from the girl's ass, forming a one-handed gesture that caused the Fuinjutsu tattoo on his wrist to shine brilliantly.
When a familiar gold 3-pronged spear appeared out of Naruto's wrist, glowing brightly as it landed in his firm grip, Aphrodite's eyes went from amusement to horror. Her horror grew as the trident unleashed a surge of force that swept away the lust cloud. No.
On the battleground, Naruto felt the weight on top of him lift and his lips disengage from him, providing him relief. He sat up, craned his neck, and looked up at a blushing Medusa who had taken a few steps away from him. It wasn't because of lust, but because of embarrassment. She was embarrassed by what she did with their lips. That's when he noticed he was still blushing. He then looked at Rhea, who was staring away from them, and the aura she was emitting was strange to him. The aura belonged to a woman who was angry and hurt. Rhea, are you all right?
No. Everyone, including the audience, focused their attention on the podium, where they witnessed a furious Aphrodite squashing a banana in her hand. This is unacceptable. You 3 should be ravaging each other. Your lust would have multiplied my powers tenfold. That's why I brought you here. You've got to be kidding me, Medusa mumbled, her flush still visible. Naruto snarled under his clenched teeth, spinning the trident a couple times as Rhea summoned her steel fans and Medusa prepared an arrow aimed squarely at Aphrodite. Ladies, I think we should teach her a lesson about this, don't you agree? He responded with firm nods when he sent them a glance. This won't take very long.
Don't be so sure, Aphrodite murmured quietly before snapping her fingers.
The west and east gates beneath the stands creaked under the strain of being opened at her command, clanking against the walls. When they felt the ground shake and heard a symphony of multiple footsteps approaching the gates, the trio stood guard. 2 business-minded individuals emerged. The first person was a young yet lovely woman. She possessed a voluptuous body akin to that of Rhea and Medusa. Her hair was long and black, like Rhea's, but she also had split bangs. Her eyes were hazel, with cat-like pupils, black cat ears, and 2 black tails. Whoa, 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 remarked Naruto, Ashura, and Kurama, respectively, upon witnessing her clothing.
Her outfit was a black-red kimono that was open at the shoulders, revealing her enormous breasts. Her kimono was embellished with a yellow obi that was attached to a set of golden beads and an ornately detailed headband.
Do you like what you see? The woman asked seductively, smirking when Naruto nodded dumbfoundedly. I could show you a lot more, she said as she licked her lips. Oh, please. The familiar man walked a little more slowly, stumbling a little. Curse these walking toothpicks, he sneered at Naruto and Rei's shocked expressions. Hello there, you two. It's been a long time.
Trident, Naruto said in surprise as he watched Rei's figure trembling slightly. You're assisting Aphrodite, why are you doing this? And who is she? He asked, pointing to the woman in the black kimono who pretended to be hurt. Even though he was angry, the merman chuckled. Why do you ask? It's quite simple, actually. A hardened expression scarred his face, and it was focused at Naruto, who became tense. I want what's mine, he said, pointing to the trident in his hand. I want the trident, says the narrator.
That's what this is all about. Naruto retorted passionately, the trident lighting blue in response. I told you I wasn't going to take your father's place as king of Atlantis. That is your birthright, not mine. Trident cackled as he drew a green double-bladed sword and a dark purple shield into his right hand. You don't get it, do you? He asked before exploding in rage. The trident is the pure symbol of royalty in Atlantis, not to mention that it is one of the most powerful weapons in the world. Power? That's all that matters to you. What would your father? Naruto's sentence was stopped short by Rei's brief explosion of her aura. Rhea? Why? Trident folded his arms casually, while Naruto arched an inquiring brow. What? Why did you lie to me? Rhea glared angrily at her careless grandson, a golden yellow glow encircling her. Why did you tell me a lie about Naruto? Naruto's eyes widened as he remembered Rei's comment about someone telling her a falsehood after their combat. Is he, Rhea?
You wanted me to believe he was like your grandfather and would track me down, also you could claim the trident once he was dead. Rei's eyes welled up as she battled to keep them dry. What's happened to you?
Trident scoffed and moved his sword in a low sweeping motion. I don't have to explain myself to you, Wrench. Your time has passed, but the leader of the Chaos Brigade has developed an interest in you both, he said, pointing to the woman next to him. Her name is Kuroka, and she's a member of said organization, so you'll have to come with us in. A powerful wave of power cut off the deity, surprising him and everyone else in the Colosseum. Rhea and Medusa were shocked as they saw a visibly enraged Naruto surrounded by a blue aura, his trident flashing the same color, only brighter than before.
I won't forgive you, Naruto said, straining to keep his rage in check as he gazed at Trident, who began to sweat slightly under the strain of his might. I'm not going to forgive you for treating Rhea like a tool. You should know better than that. I don't care if I get in trouble with your father, I'm going to pummel you until no one can recognize you.
More power was channeled into the trident by the shinobi, making it glow even brighter. Then he started spinning it around him furiously. The Colosseum began to darken behind the cover of dark gray clouds that arose seemingly out of nowhere, and the wind began to pick up speed, increasing stronger by the second. Bystanders in the stands were being lifted from their seats and crushed against the walls behind them as the wind grew stronger. Medusa flinched when she saw them hit the walls, but she quickly noticed that they had vanished into a pale white mist. They're ghosts, she mumbled before addressing Rhea and, presumably, Naruto. The people are ghosts. She sensed something else was going on around them. They were trapped within a massive hurricane. Tokyo Ryozanpaka Dojo. It's been awfully quiet for quite some time now.
What exactly do you mean? After finishing the stroke of his latest calligraphy work masterpiece, the Jujutsu master stared at the Chinese Kenpo master. You know. After a little pause, Kensai responded, Ah, I see. Naruto and the elder haven't done another training session in a while. Taking a break from training isn't unusual, especially if that training is for animal trine techniques. But still, I know. A cough drew Kensei's attention away from his current task. Oh, Kenichi, I'm sorry, this remedy will help your muscles recover faster, but you still need to rest, he explained as he draped 2 green liquid-covered towels over the boy's legs.
Thank you. When the boy fell asleep again after another grueling training session with Naruto, the masters laughed. They normally wake him up with their regular but unusual mythos, but they let it slide because Naruto's training style is partly on their level. I must admit that I was surprised when Naruto was able to use the Bushin technique. There aren't many martial artists who can use it these days. What surprises me the most, Akisame, is the boy's incredible stamina, which is almost superhuman or beyond. That, too. A minute later, the familiar blonde disciple in Mew, who was bringing a tray of lunch, entered the room. How is he?
He's sleeping again, but he should be awake and ready for our training in a few hours.
Clone Naruto said as he sat down next to Mew after she placed the dish next to Kenichi. Cool. I have to say something about Kenichi, he's tenacious. With a sweep of his mustache, Akisame nodded, he's not the only one.
Mew, who was sitting next to him, laughed before lightly tapping her companion on the head. He's referring to you, stupid. Oh, that's right. A few minutes later, there was a soft knock on the wooden gates, alerting them to the fact that someone was attempting to enter their dojo, which confused everyone. Unless they are buddies with one of them or want to join their dojo, they rarely have visitors. The latter option is extremely unlikely.
Before either of them could stand up, they heard the huge Apachai's recognizable voice.
Apachai got it. The villagers went about their everyday lives, with the exception of Mew. Hello, who are you? The clone, Mew, and the two masters listened in when they heard his mysterious voice. Oh, you're looking for Naruto, Appa. I'll take you to him. It wasn't long until the Muay Thai teacher opened the sliding door, letting the breeze in. Naruto, you have a guest, Apapa. The clone cocked his brow. Who? Apachai's eyes widened as he recognized the visitor clearly. What is he doing here?
Michael, the leader of the angels, was among the visitors. He wasn't, however, dressed normally. Instead, the archangel was dressed immaculately in a white suit with a blue dress shirt underneath and a yellow tie. He waved to the clone and everyone else in the room.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Michael, and I am a friend of Naruto's. Michael introduced himself while thinking to himself. I thought he was in Las Vegas. Perhaps he can split his essence and create a sort of clone. Pleased to meet you. My name is Akisame Ketsuji, and I am one of the residents here, the jujitsu master said as he stood up and shook hands with the blonde man. Akisame gestured to his fellow tenants, beginning with the Chinese Kenpo master, after they released their hands. This is Kensai Ma. He then swept his hand over to the smiling Mew. And this is Mew, our dojo's elder's granddaughter.
It's nice to finally meet you. After gathering materials for their followers' upcoming torture sessions, Sakari, Shigur, and the elder arrived and met their new guest. According to the elder, one who will push themselves beyond their physical boundaries. So, what brings you here to our dojo, young Michael? Hayato inquired. He sat in a straight line with the other masters, with Akisame to his left and Shigur to his right. Naruto and Mew were off to the side tending to Kenichi, who was now awake and briefed on their visitor. I heard about my friend living here, so I thought I'd pay him a visit while I'm in town, Michael respectfully replied as he sat across from the masters and took a sip of the tea Mew had prepared for him and the others. Sakari lifted an inquisitive brow and crossed his arms. You're a foreigner? I come from a place that many call paradise, Michael replied, alluding to his home. The Bahamas, then? No, Kensai, that's not it, Michael said to clone Naruto, who only looked at him. If I may, I would like to speak with Naruto and his master about a very important matter. The group, particularly Naruto and Hayato, were taken aback, but the couple nodded and exited the room for the elder's private rooms.
Kensai blinked a few times like an owl as he finally remembered something or someone as they stood there staring at the empty door. Where are Rhea and Medusa? I haven't seen either of them since yesterday.
Oh, Naruto said something about Rhea going to visit a relative in America, and she took Medusa with her because she's never been to the country before, Mew replied joyfully before leaving to do the dishes. America, Sakari murmured, recalling his days as a member of the FBI. I bet they're having fun over there.
Constructed Coliseum Aphrodite's dimension, outside of the raging cyclone in front of them, Triton and Kuroka shielded their faces with crossed arms, the former with a menacing expression. Does he believe he can intimidate me with this?
I personally believe it is overwhelming. Sure you would, Triton said, looking at her and noticing something quite interesting. Kuroka's kimono fluttered wildly, threatening to fall off and reveal her naked body for all to see. Which reminds me of our deal. Before responding, Kuroka licked her right hand like a cat. Of course, I look forward to protecting you. Specifically your body. So am I. Triton couldn't help but smile as he gave the woman next to him a once-over, thinking about how he'll be rough with her in bed once they finish their assignment. The hurricane's winds began to slow as it began to suction inside itself from the top, as if being sucked by something. The hurricane's size shrank minute by moment until 3 familiar people could be seen from the interior, and then it vanished.
Good, now I can take what is rightfully mine. Naruto narrowed his eyes as he returned the trident to its dormant state before locking it away with his arms. He then exhibited his hands fully free of the weapon, which surprised both Kuroka and Triton. You want it, come get it, but there's no way in hell I'm ever letting your hands on it, he said to his female companions. Girls, go get Aphrodite while I deal with these two.
Say what now? Medusa managed to say before Rhea grabbed her by the collar and dragged her out of the arena. Rhea, what are you doing?
Rhea didn't say anything as she dashed to the wall and hopped over it when she was close enough. she didn't come to a halt after landing and entering the stone corridor that leads into the structure. The shinobi didn't look back, his gaze fixed on his two opponents, but he was aware that the girls had vanished. "So, are you ready to get started?" he inquired, as a Rasengan exploded into life in his dominant palm.
What do you think? The two males' auras of power began to shine slightly, Naruto blue and Triton purple. Not long after that, Naruto and Triton charged at each other with such power that their assaults kicked up enough dirt around them to create a dust cloud that engulfed the circular arena. Along with Rhea and Medusa, when the hallway shook violently, the pair lost their balance and fell to the ground. The stone shook loose rubble and dirt from the ceiling, which landed on the stone roadway. As Rhea regained her feet, a pair of hands grabbed her shoulders and turned her around to face Medusa, who was not pleased. "Why did we leave Naruto back there? He could handle those two," Rhea said, as if it were clear. "But, believe in him, he fought the two of us and won, right?" Medusa clutched her bow and nodded reluctantly, but still. "What?" Rhea inquired, intrigued. Medusa's eyes shed lively tears as she whimpered and pouted cutely. "I wanted to show Naruto my progression in the Kasaka style." "Oh dear," Rhea exclaimed as she ran down the hall, a perspiration drop on her brow. Medusa quickly followed as she stopped her waterworks. "We must hurry to capture Aphrodite." "Why?" "Most likely, she's the only one who can get us out of this dimension."
"Wait, can't you just take us out of here with your powers?" Rhea sighed deeply before responding. "I hate to admit it, but Aphrodite is more powerful than me at the moment." Medusa gasped. "However, if we fight her or weaken her, my powers will overcome hers, and I will get us out of here." "All right, let's get started." The Titaness nodded to her sister as they pursued the love goddess, who had fled further into the maze of darkness. To be continued.
That's the end of this podcast. Thanks for listening to this video. If you did enjoy this part of the story, like, share, and subscribe for more. And thank you all for happy support and have a great day.